Then the entire mass of existence formed an egg with the pure elements rising to the outside, forming the heavens, and the impure elements congealing on the inside, forming the dense and dark earth. From the ocean of chaos, a reed arose from out of the earth and grew into the heavens. This was to be called Hakamagahara, the high plane of heaven. From this reed was the eternal land ruler, Mythlogy, the first god to touch the earth. He then created the most remarkable of all the gods, a brother-sister pair called Izanagi and Izanami. They were given the task of creating the world we live in. Standing on Amanokihashi, floating bridge of the heavens, what they saw below them was a world not condensed, but what looked like a sea of filmy fog floating to and fro in the air, an impure germ that would become the earth. Izanagi then plunged a jewel-pressed spear into the ocean. When the gods pulled it free, the water that dripped from the spear coagulated and formed the first island of the Japanese archipelago, the island of Onokono. Delighted with the result, the two gods descended from the floating bridge to reach the newly created island and erected a pillar to the heavens. Izanami and Izanagi then decided to get married. They walked around the pillar until they reached each other on the opposite side. When they saw each other's faces, Izanami exclaimed, "What a fine young man!" and the two gods wed. Their first child was deformed and was discarded into the world on a reed boat. This child became known as Ibisu, the god of the fishermen. A later island child was also unsuccessful and was discarded as well. Disappointed by their failure of procreation, they returned to heaven and consulted the deities there. The deities explained that the cause of the difficulties was that the female had spoken first at the wedding ceremony. Izanagi and Izanami returned to their island and met again behind the heavenly pillar. This time when they met, he said, "What a fine young woman," and then she said, "What a fine young man." They mated and gave birth to the 8 main islands of Japan and 6 minor islands. Then they gave birth to a variety of gods to inhabit those islands, including the sea god, the god of the sea straits, and the god of the rivers, winds, trees, mountains, crops, birds, and so forth. Last, Izanami gave birth to the fire god, and her genitals were so badly burned that she died. Distraught and full of anger with Izanami's death, Izanagi used his long sword to behead his son, the god of fire. From the blood on the sword came many deities, including 3 deities of rocks, 2 of fire, and 1 of water. After slaying the fire god, he set out to search for Izanami in the underworld and called out to her. She came to him saying, "You are too late. I've already eaten food of land, but I would like to return. Wait here for me and I will ask permission from the spirits of the underworld, but do not try to look for me." Impatient and tired of waiting, he broke off a tooth from the comb he wore in his hair to use as a torch and followed her. When he found her, he saw the horrid form of the once beautiful and graceful Izanami. She was now a rotting form of flesh with maggots and foul creatures running over her ravaged body. In this state, Izanami was giving birth to the 8 gods of thunder. Repulsed by this sight, Izanagi cried out and drew back. Now awakened and furious with Izanami shrieked and sent wild demons after him to bring him back to her. The spirits pursued Izanami, but he managed to escape and threw down a boulder in an opening of the underworld. Izanami screamed from behind this impenetrable barricade and told Izanagi that if he left her, she would destroy 1,000 residents of the living every day. He furiously replied he would give life to 1,500. Then Izanami left Izanami to rule the underworld and returned to the land of living. Feeling unclean from his contact with the dead, Izanagi took a bath to purify himself. A number of gods and goddesses, both good and evil, emerged from his discarded clothing. During his bath, sun goddess Amaterasu appeared from his left eye, the moon god Tsukiyomi appeared from his right eye, and Susanoo, the god of seas and storms, came from his nose. Proud of these 3 noble children, Izanagi divided his kingdom among them.
First Japanese mythology is insanely sexist. Who noticed that? You also notice, you may not have, the first, when they started out, the one gave rise to Izanagi and Izanami. They glossed over about 40 gods. The reason for that is no one cares. No one's on his Zeus, no one worships Zeus, no one should anyone there. It's like part of mythology. It's like, that's cool, great. There's part of the islands and why they're there. The other thing is, who knows the story of Persephone? Oh, good, lots of people. Greek drawing this, I can only never keep straight. But I always find a neat parallel that there's such a similar myth in Japanese mythology as in Western mythology. A little different in the cause of spring and all that, but the same underworld kind of thing, the same general idea of someone's down there and has to be brought back. And I like the idea of more universal kinds of thoughts like that, where we can kind of connect with our history as well as history. Well, we have some ideas from these things, from what we started out as. And that's pretty much the majority of the creation myth, and past then, it really goes off into the comedy and all of the many diversion of gods. The other thing I like is they didn't mention good and evil. They don't really have, like, the underworld is all evil. It's just they had a bunch of mysterious and malicious gods, and some were good, depending on which one it was. And that shows up in more of the folk tales, too. Inside. Oh, Kappa. Who knows his cats? Everyone should know the Kappa. Okay. They're frogs. Got here. Okay. But they have some basic characteristics, and like any kind of folktale, you get some varying tales. Sometimes they're not consistent, which is why you'll hear one person say, but this thing is bad, and we're just like, but it was good. And also, being a semi-anime god, you also get a lot of distortion from anime and movies versus the original film. The big things about Kappa, I can't really notice it's called Saga, I think. Saga, that's how I look it up. They have a few big characteristics. See that thing on top of his head? The little kind of water bowl thing? Very important. That's water from their home spring. If they lose that, they lose lots of the magical powers, which are strength, general trickery, that kind of thing. They also have this neat thing where their arms are attached to each other so they can pull them through and pull them off. One way to get a Kappa to be remitting is to keep its arms. It is kind of its arm back. The dragon, the big ones are the carcass, back there, big shell, and that bowl ones. But I like a lot of Japanese myths and legends because they generally give you the way to trick the creature. If they lose that water, they're going to lose their power. Well, take Japan. They are insanely polite. So a big deep bow, they totally bow back. And all the water before them. Which is just hilarious to me. It's like, really? That easy? They also are big gamers, and you can trick them into sumo matches, which is again a big bow before the match. Or show me chess. Things like that. There are also some stories that the Kappa will put a kind of cap on their head and go up to the mountains and become mountain Kappa for the winter months. For one of the reasons winter in the mountains seems like a good idea to throw. Never shows up. Water. They're kind of tricky little things. They are, and the stories, they vary between malicious and pulling people into the water and drowning them, and just kind of, and just out for a good time. They like to drink, they like to have fun, they like to do everything that a human shaped frog would do, I guess. Any other questions for Cap, or comments of something they think of? Yes?
Apples also, according to folklore, have a thing for cucumbers. And young boys, when they go to rivers, they said that they will bite the weeds off of little boys unless they're offered a cucumber.
Yeah, that's one of the malicious parts. Like I said, the stories diverge a lot. The cucumber's a pretty traditional summer food, drinking food, so it's more of a, lots of times folk tales contain morals. And that particular one is bring gifts for your elders and be careful around the water. The morals aren't obvious, but that's another big character of folk tales, is that they're trying to, by oral tradition, give sort of a boogeyman to keep the kids in line. Yeah, and there's their fields. There are other things that will be misconstrued and easily distorted into a big froggy thing. And next we have monster cats. Who about these cats? A little bit? Okay. They're a little more confusing. Little thing here. There are roughly 3 ways to become one. The first is to get over 8 1/4 pounds, which for anybody who raises or has cats, that's not really that big a cat. Second is to live for 100 years. You'll notice a theme of 100 years in a lot of mythology in Japan about, we'll talk about a little cat creature in a little bit, that becomes animate after 100 years. And the third one, I can't remember off the top of my head.
Drinking lamp oil, I think.
Drinking lamp oil is a typical behavior, and they're considered bakaneko them. And the reason for that from cats would have been that that was traditionally made for fish oil. So they, fish oil. What cat doesn't like a good bowl of fish oil? But they have some unique abilities that I like. One of them is the ability to eat anything in their way, no matter what it is. People like rocks, whatever. They have a main food, once they're the monster cat, of poison. Who knows this guy? I'll go back to one there. Back in the cat. Who knows that guy? That is actually it's from a story that if you had a dream given to you by them and put it in a stone and carved it, it would come true for money. So the cat is a beckoning cat. The other thing is, this in Japan is come here. It's not good buckets. So it's welcoming someone in. They have some bad habits. Oh, I forgot one thing. They believe that once a tail gets too long, it can become bakaneko, so a lot of times they have the tails cut, which is also probably a big reason so many bobtail cats were bred in Japan, because they were miniaturized monsters, which has a cat, not a monster, because they would eat people. And there are several stories about a cat taking human form after having eaten or putting the corpse down on the floor for his future meals, a spouse or someone else, and taking over that place in order to either have kids or do evil cat things, because cats are evil. Not person, sorry. So there are a lot of tales about things like that for the cats. Any questions about the wonderful bakaneko? No? Someone making cat faces back there? Okay, let's go. We're gonna watch a little video here. Will you do the stills first, please? The stills first. This is a crab. It's a Heikigami crowd, and we're going to learn about this from the wonderful Carl Sagan here. So, watch the video.
Let me tell you a story about one little phrase in the music of life on earth. In the history of humans, in the 12th century, Japan was ruled by a clan of warriors called the Heike. The nominal leader of the Heike, the Emperor of Japan, was a 7-year-old boy named Antoku. His guardian was his grandmother, the Lady Nii. The Heike were engaged in a long and bloody war with another samurai clan, the Genji. Each asserted a superior ancestral claim to the imperial throne. Their decisive encounter occurred at Danukura in the Japanese Inland Sea on April 24th in the year 1185. The Heike were badly outnumbered and outmaneuvered. With their cause clearly lost, the surviving Heike warriors threw themselves into the sea and drowned. The Emperor's grandmother, the Lady Nii, resolved that they would not be captured by the enemy. What happened next is related in the tale of the Heike. The young emperor asked the Lady Nii, "Where are you to take me?" She turned to the youthful sovereign with tears streaming down her cheeks and comforted him. Blinded with tears, the child sovereign put his beautiful small hands together. He turned first to the east to say farewell to the god of Ise, and then to the west to recite the Nembutsu, a prayer to the Amida Buddha. The Lady Nii took him in her arms, and with the words, "In the depths of the ocean is our capital," sank with him at last beneath the waves. The destruction of the Heike battle fleets at Danokura marked the end of the clan's 30-year rule. The Heike all but vanished from history. Only 43 Heike survived, all women. These former ladies-in-waiting of the imperial court were reduced to selling flowers and other favors to the fishermen near the scene of the battle. These women and their offspring by the fisher folk established a festival to commemorate the battle. To this day, every year, on the 24th of April, their descendants proceed to the Akama Shrine, which contains the mausoleum of the drowned 7-year-old emperor, Antoku. There, they conduct a ceremony of remembrance for the life and death of the Heike warriors. But there's a strange postscript to this story. The fishermen say that the Heike samurai wander the bottom of the inland sea still, in the form of crabs. There are crabs to be found here which have curious markings on their backs, patterns which resemble a human face with the aggressive scowl of a samurai warrior from medieval Japan. These Heike crabs, when caught, are not eaten. They're thrown back into the sea in commemoration of the doleful events of the Battle of Danobura. This legend raises a lovely problem. How does it come about that the face of a warrior is cut on the carapace of a Japanese crab? How could it be? The answer seems to be that humans made this face. But how? Like many other features, the patterns of the back or carapace of this crab are inherent. But among crabs, as among humans, there are many different hereditary lines. Now, suppose purely by chance, among the distant ancestors of this crab, there came to be one which looked just a little bit like a human face. Long before the battle, fishermen may have been reluctant to eat a crab with a human face. In throwing it back into the sea, they were setting into motion a process of selection. If you're a crab and your carapace is just ordinary, the humans are going to eat you. But if it looks a little bit like a face, they'll throw you back, and you'll be able to have lots of nice little baby crabs that all look just like you. As many generations passed of crabs and fisher folk alike, the crabs with patterns that look most like a samurai face preferentially survived. Until eventually, there was produced not just a human face, not just a Japanese face, but the face of a samurai warrior. All this has nothing to do with what the crabs might want. Selection is imposed from the outside. The more you look like a samurai, the better your chances of survival. And eventually, there are a lot of crabs that look like samurai warriors.
I really like the crabs because they're they look like that kind of samurai warrior thing that everyone has in mind. So it's fascinating to have like that actual story behind something that exists. Before you know, sometimes you don't get these things. It's just a story. That one is actually, this is a class of folk monsters. And it's a unique one in that almost anything can become a folk monster today. It's on its 100th anniversary, which is why you get stories of enchanted or animated teapots helping broker peace with the shoguns. These are the umbrellas, which are the ones that majority won't recognize. That's actually Casa Maki. This is what you can find toys made like this all over the place. It's a very standard silver gummy. Anything that becomes this. There are several scrolled stories about cleaning out the temple at the new year and then throwing away the tools. And the tools getting together after they're thrown away and having arguments over being upset because they got thrown out. They're very happy about this and they stage little tool uprisings. And the priests have to deal with the tool uprising, which I think is also a funny tale in Japanese folklore. I wish I could find a video on that one, but I can't. It's all spoken. The next thing that's pretty standard is a big blood stream. Who knows that guy? Big flying toilet. It's a big towel. He's a model. He supposedly, if you go on his good side, will do you favors and do all sorts of lovely things for you. But if you irritate him, he will wrap around your head and crush you. I don't know like the odds of being crushed in that story. And this is one of those where I really don't get at all where the folktale came from. Most of you, you gotta go,